Hello YouTube, welcome back to the Basement Card Collector. Today's video is going to be the 8th episode of my Magic Numbers series. Today's video is going to cover a very exclusive club in the MLB. There are only 4 members all time in this club. And before we get to the club, I'd like to point out a few players here in front of us that were almost in the club, but not quite. When you think of the 40-40 club, it stands for 40 home runs and 40 stolen bases in the same season. So you're thinking, man, who has the power to hit 40 home runs and who has the speed to steal 40 bases in one season? And a few players we have here in front of us today kind of fit the bill when you think of some of those power hitters. And so in my day, I've got a couple people up here. You really cannot talk stolen bases without mentioning Mr. Rickey Henderson. And this is just a Stadium Club card, but man, it just looks good. It looks like speed. A little bit of gloss, but that's him. Looks like he's going from second to third, and it could be from first to second, depending on how we're looking at that. But anyway, Rickey Henderson stole 100 bases and up into the 80s and the 90s, but he never quite hit 40 home runs. Mr. Rhino Sandberg, he is in the club, kinda, just not in the same season. He has a 40 home run season and a 54 stolen base season, but they did not happen in the same season, so he is not in that club. But he had power and speed. Here's Mr. Andre Dawson. This is the 89 Topps. And if you are familiar with the stats, but you just look down at the bottom, he has some 30 home runs, some 49, some 30 stolen bases, but never enough to go into the 40-40 club. Mr. Ron Gant, super close to entering the 40-40. He has a 30 home runs and 30 stolen bases. He signed this 91 Upper Deck for us. And then also one of the big sluggers of my era in those 90s, Mr. Juan Gonzalez. What a cool card here, 93 Upper Deck. He has a couple 40 home run seasons, but never sniffed 40 stolen bases. Maybe for his career, maybe. And then you have Mr. Bo Jackson, just awesome. The card itself, 89 Bowman. Nothing special, but just a cool looking card. Powerful, fast, but never hit 40 home runs. And never stole 40 bases, but did hit the 30 home runs. Okay, so who is in this club? Who did actually hit the 40 home runs and the 40 stolen bases? Do you know the 4 names? Before we get into that list, look how many players have played in the MLB since 1876, so the very first season, up to May 16th, 2023, 20,348 players have played Major League Baseball. 20,348. Okay? The number of players in this club, 4. 4 players have put together a season with 40 home runs and 40 stolen bases in the same season. Okay? We're going to look at these 4 players in terms of who made it first to who was the most recent member, okay? And if you are a baseball fan from the 1980s and into current day, you for sure know this first player. He was the first to do it, and it just blew people's minds. And in 1988, he was named the AL MVP, and in fact, he is the only MVP in the 4-player club that won the MVP during the 40-40 season. That first player that did it in 1988, Mr. Jose Canseco. And I remember this very clearly because this year of 1989 was the first year I was buying packs like nobody's business. And I saw the 40-40 club logo on this card. I'm thinking, what in the world is that? That's got to be cool. He's the only guy that has it on the cards. And Don Russ in 1989 gave him his own little card. Baseball's first 40-40 man. And then the Fleer kind of followed suit. Speed and power. 40 steals and 40 home runs. That is super cool. So for Mr. Jose Canseco, I'm going to leave that Donruss kind of on the top there. And I also pulled a couple other cool Canseco's that just kind of scream Jose Canseco. If you're a collector, again, 1992, they called him the best athlete. It's hard to get 40 and 40 and not be somewhat of an athlete. 91 score, really loved them some Jose Canseco. They put him on the all-star score big head. And the dream team wearing some tight pants, hitting shirtless. So classic card, 1991 score. And then just for fun, I dug out this, just one of those cool cards that, you know, he's obviously in the dugout, you know, making some kind of joke about a shovel. I could hit 40 home runs with a shovel if I had to. That is our first member, Mr. Jose Canseco. We'll leave this out here for all the ladies, all the fans of the channel that loved that 91 score. The second member of this club came just about 10 years later. He was a member of that same 1992 Upper Deck set when they were talking about the Diamond Skills. The second player to join that list, Mr. Barry Bonds. He joined in 1996 when he hit 42 home runs and stole 40 bases on the dot. And here in 1992, he was called the most exciting player. Canseco, best athlete, most exciting. And I found two Mr. Barry Bonds cards that happened in the season of. Here he is, 1996 All-Star. And if you look in there, 42 bombs, 40 stolen bases, right on the dot. And of course, he would go on to win 7 MVP awards, but it did not happen when he was the second 40-40 man. How about that? Mr. Barry Bonds, member number 2. Our third member joined just 2 seasons after Mr. Bonds. He was out there in Seattle, a very young shortstop. He came up as a 19-year-old kid playing shortstop for the Seattle Mariners. He joined in 1998, and I picked 2 of the same cards here for Mr. Alex Rodriguez. The Topps base set and then his opening day card. Mr. Rodriguez hit 42 home runs and also a touch above the 40. He saw 46 stolen bases. And again, he's a very young, but he was hitting home runs, stealing bases, and he would go on, of course, to hit almost 700 home runs. His stolen bases did dwindle down there as he got older, of course, but there's a young version of Mr. Alex Rodriguez. And again, he did not win an MVP in his 40-40 campaign. He did go on to win a couple later on. I think he has two MVPs. In the fourth and final member of the 40-40 club, if I give you some clues, I think you're going to come up with it. Clue number 1. My buddy SFI Sports Cards, Sammy, just did a video recently showing a cool card of this player. He started out as a Yankee. He finished up as a Cubby. He started out as a second baseman and then moved into the outfield. If you're guessing this man right here, Mr. Alfonso Soriano, you are correct. Here's a rookie card on that Topps 50th anniversary year. I like this because I like flipping over and looking at the backs. It says 1999 will be his first professional season. This is the Topps traded, 1999 Topps traded. And then here you go, you have a Bowman Chrome 2000, it says. So there you go, there's 2 Alfonso. That's what I first remember him looking like when he jumped into the league. He was a second baseman with a guy named Derek Jeter. He is going to be the 4th member. But what I like to remember him as is a very large contract that the Cubbies gave him after 1 season. I picked just two cool Cubby cards, this Diamond Anniversary card and this Upper Deck Masterpiece. So when I think of Mr. Soriano, I think of him as a Cubby that had a huge contract, that hit a lot of home runs, didn't play a lot of defense. Had his issues, but overall, I was okay with him. I was okay with him being a Cubby. However, when he was a 40-40 club member, he was not a Yankee. He was not a Chicago Cubby. He was a Washington National for one season. And this is the year when he broke into the club. He had 46 home runs, 41 stolen bases, and the upper deck card is him taking the base actually, off the field to celebrate. And here's an all-star card from that 06 season as well. And again, the Cubs sure liked it because they gave him a monster contract right after this season. The man could hit, had some power, obviously could steal some bases. And he actually, if you look up into that his second full season, he missed the 40-40 club by 1 home run back with those Yankees. 39 home runs and 41 stolen bases. So we're going to leave Mr. Soriano as a Cubby. And I have 3 little facts that were kind of cool I'd like to pass on with this club as well. Canseco, we mentioned, is the only MVP out of the 4 players. 3 of the 4 were New York Yankees. Obviously, Soriano played there, Alex Rodriguez played there, and Canseco had a tiny stint in there as well. The only non-Yankee would be Barry Bonds. There is a really cool quote from Mickey Mantle. Someone must have asked him this question, like, what do you think about these players getting in these clubs, these 30-30, 40-40 clubs? Mickey Mantle was quoted with saying, if I'd known 40-40 was a big deal, I'd have done it every year. And so it's just we kind of make things out of stats with these new current years and players and stats and sabermetrics, and we make clubs out of them. And there's one of the all-time greats, Mr. Mickey Mantle, thinking, hey, if that was a big deal, I could have done that every year. So I thought that was a fun way to end my research, I suppose, for the 40-40 club. That is it. That is going to conclude our 8th episode of our Magic Numbers of the MLB, the 40-40 Club. 4 players out of over 20,000 all-time players in Major League Baseball. Only these 4 players in front of us have jumped into the 40-40 Club. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.